Hello, everybody, and welcome to another week of .p's Tryhard Tuesdays, where we learn to try a little bit harder. I am your host, the Grand Wazoo, and sitting here with me is the man everybody knows and loves, good friend of mine, Flubb with two B's. Now they've got me saying it even. How's it going, man?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. It was only a matter of time. You could resist for so long, but you know they eventually pull you over to their side sometimes.
I always want to call you by your real name too, so I have to stop myself because don't want you to get all the stalkers on the internet after you if they know your name.
That's true. I'm no Blackheart though, so I won't care that much. It's okay.
I do have a redaction. I said her name over our show, and she said I exposed her. So sorry about that. Her name is not what I said it was. It's actually Schmancy. So that's the correction. I want to stay true to the integrity of the podcast, so I had to make that correction. But guys, it's been an interesting week in Dota. I know the meta is kind of starting to feel stale to a lot of people, but with that being said, it feels like it is more or less been figured out. The meta has been pretty interesting for the competitive scene. It's been interesting as a player that just plays casually, and it's interesting for these I guess semi-pro players. Such as Flubb, I guess like your skill is semi-pro and your team is semi-pro kind of. And you guys have had some success in this meta, some ups and downs. So we're going to discuss building MMR in the context of a meta that has, by all intents and purposes, gone rather stale. I don't know. I didn't think it had such a big impact on my play, and I actually pulled up Dota Buff to see my wins and losses, and I have considerably more losses in the middle of a meta, going back a couple patches, than I do towards the beginning or the end. And I think that'd be a pretty good launching platform to get into our discussion. I kind of posited that the meta isn't figured out in the beginning, and that's why I win, because all this stuff kind of works, and then people start to figure out what's really good towards the middle part of the meta, and if I don't know it, then I lose MMR, and I typically don't, and then I'll learn how to play that by the end, and I'll get better, and then the meta shifts. So, Flubb, what do you think of the meta currently? And if you could describe what it is in your mind, could you tell us in the audience?
Well, the thing about the meta is that like I'm the exact same way as you are. Generally, I'm a person who dreams big and tries to like figure out what they can do with the heroes that they love. So I generally like to play around, play different things, experiment with different ideologies and different movements. So for me, I'm the best at the beginning of a meta when people are trying to figure it out, and at the end, I can theory craft around what people think is good. And then I can kind of put them on their head by like knowing what the knowledge of what I've gained before, and like, oh, okay, so I know that they're gonna pick, Lion in this instance because Lion is like the go-to support, and I know that they're gonna want it, so I'm gonna pick something that like counteracts that hero. So there's like that there's that ideology, but for me, this meta has been all about like securing your mid, some type of farm, securing your mid, securing your safe flame, and like kind of letting your off lane be, because they with that Iron Talon, they can have the ability to go into the jungle, kind of level up without having to worry about dying. In the past, it used to be okay if off lanes like died once or twice or even 3 times in some cases, versus like really hard tri lanes, just because they needed to do that to get some experience out of that lane. Whereas now it's just like, okay, the lane's too hard, you just go into the jungle, Iron Talon for a little while, come out probably just as good, if not just a little bit under where you would be if you went into the lane. Sometimes even better. So I guess what I feel like this meta is it's based around supports being flexible enough to go to each lane, and the core players finding farm and kind of like making that way to the mid game potential, and then kind of exploding at that point. It's kind of mid game centric with these team fights, with these stylistic fighting of trying to have these heroes that like will blow up a hero or will have a lot of damage throughout the team fight to kind of shore up whatever is missing in the fight. That AOE effect.
That's interesting. I definitely feel the same way. If I had to, I guess, define an item that I feel like has been pretty impactful, at least in the roles I play, that would be Vanguard. And I kind of made the prediction, and it's a very broad prediction that armor was going to be very good. And I've seen that for the most part. I mean, it was of such a broad prediction that everyone's like, no duh. But with the Blightstone being added and some of these reworks and Vanguard being very good, I feel like this meta, more so than others, has been, orientated towards that mid-game timing, where if you have the armor and you have the minus reduction armor, when you hit that mid-game timing, you can blast through on some fights and just take the platform from there. Would you agree with me?
Oh yeah, most definitely. I feel like I don't even know if it's armor. It's just like the ability that Vanguard gives now, just the percentage block that it does. Not even like, I mean, armor is that, but like just the health bonus it gives and what it does for healing is just very, very strong right now.
Yeah, yes, indeed. If you could pick one item that you feel like has been, defining of this meta, that's not the Vanguard, of course, what would you pick?
Oh, that's a good question. I kind of want to say Aquila. Aquila is crazy good. It's like almost needed on every team now. Just because of the way that it helps regulate mana, like having an Aquila on the team and having a raindrop in your inventory is a lot of mana regen now, and it can kind of mitigate the need for mana boots. Like you pretty much only need like one on the team as a necessity, whereas like in patches past, it would be almost a necessity to have two people with mana boots running around. So sometimes it's needed. I'm not saying that it's not, but it's always surprising when something so minimal and something so easily able to stack up does something as well as or almost as well as an item that needs a big threshold push, like the mana boots needing that 900 item, the dollar item, 900 gold piece item. Whereas like the components together are pretty much 900 pieces for the Aquila.
Yeah, and then you have the poor man's Aquila, and that's raindrops, right? But they work in conjunction. So it's like, if I could say anything about this meta, I would say that it's the meta of like you have more choices as a support, and you have more choices in these areas where, sure, like earlier you would have to have two mana boots on the team or something if you had a most any lineup, right? But now it's like there are other factors where you can mitigate that. I guess all that cost threshold you're talking about, and have something that will give you a little bit of an oomph to get to the point that you need to get to. And you see that a lot with raindrops. You see it with the Blightstone. You see it with the Windlace. You see all these early game options now open to supports or otherwise that wasn't there before. And it's helped to create that mid game centric meta. And it has been interesting. Don't get me wrong, but I think for the most part, having watched all these tournaments and all this other stuff, it's definitely time for a change.
Yeah, it's important to keep everybody in an idealistic power type situation, try to make everything even. Different patches, different things are stronger at certain points, and obviously I enjoy when supports are getting the buffs that they do, because they kind of were the unsung heroes for the longest period of time, and now they're kind of getting the attention they deserve and can kind of do a lot more. So it's kind of like their time to shine. But I do think that it's important to maintain the balance, and I think that other positions will see a similar glowing respect in the next upcoming patch, and we'll see a definite power struggle or power shift here pretty soon.
Yeah, that's interesting. I can't wait to see what they do, because I don't think these items that have been added recently are going to be the last items added. Maybe other stuff will build into it. Of course, an item I didn't mention earlier that also kind of feeds into this point I'm trying to make is the Tome of Knowledge. I never would have thought something like that could have existed, something you just buy instantly and get experience. I would have thought that was so stupid. And in fact, I did on this very show, before you came on, I did say that was stupid. I thought it was dumb and it wouldn't work and that it would be easily abused. But, I was wrong completely. It's something that gives the supports that little bit of a push, or even helps you make that timing not as a support that, go into a team fight or something. It was annoying to be like, your team won't wait for you even though you're like 100 or something experience away from level 11 or something. You know what I mean? And like people just run in and die. And now you can just be like, wait up, got to grab a tome, be right there and just pour it out, And it cuts out those little annoying nuances of the game that, it lets you achieve that efficiency in other ways. And so that to me, having options is always a good thing in a game like this, and I can't wait to see what they do. They're heads on correctly. And all the changes I've been seeing lately, from the report system to, really everything I can name is moving the game in the right direction. I do have my criticisms, but who doesn't if you spend a lot of time playing something? So I can't wait to see what they do. We'll kind of be talking about this throughout the episode and comparing the meta, because it's going to go hand in hand with our conversation based upon how to climb MMR. But Flubb, you've had some good days recently in Dota you've been talking to me about. So why don't you take us into the next leg of our discussion, talking about how much of a dope baller you are in Dota 2?
I've fallen on some lucky times. I wouldn't know if I'm a dope baller, but I have found a system that's been working out. I feel like it was 2 weeks ago. I went on a spree one day and gained 200 MMRs, either 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago from now. I mentioned on it on an episode a few weeks ago, but and that was really good. And I found my stride, and I just like kept playing, and I found something just clicked in me that day. And it's counterintuitive to what I normally would say. I've always had like the tried and true way of, okay, if you have way too good of a game, don't play, and if you have way too bad of a game, don't play again. You just play like one game, kind of get out for the day, like take a break, relax, and go back into it. But like it was weird, and I don't suggest this to everyone because there's special cases in this scenario, but I didn't have the best game and I didn't have the worst game, so I just kept playing every time, and I was kind of had an even keeledness throughout the entire day, and it gave me, led me to having plus 200 MMR that day. I actually was able to almost replicate it earlier, like it was like on Saturday or Sunday. It was Saturday this weekend. I was able to get 150 MMR. I actually should have had 200, but the last game that I played as a Pudge, got like 6 kills and 10 assists before like, I think it was like 19 minutes. And I had 3 deaths, but all my deaths were denies. So like my first death, I died to their carry, and I mean that was bad, but I had like a mid that just like kept getting himself into bad situations. So, that happens to everyone. But once you get into that situation like that, you got to stop and you got to say, okay, you played your best at that time and you got tilted by playing with these other people that weren't playing their best. So let's take a break and then end there. It's like in my system is like the same system I think I would have if I had towards going to Las Vegas. When you're up, you cash out and you get what you had. You don't try to go for more, man, because you're just going to end up losing it all.
I have heard playing competitive compared to gambling, because when you're up, you feel like you can never lose. And when you're down, you feel like you got to make it up. And that's the wrong attitude to have, I think. Like, there's a science to it. Not to say for gambling there isn't, because like if you look into poker theory and stuff like that, like there's legitimate ways to play that kind of stuff. Maybe not roulette, but Dota is not a game of roulette. It's more akin to a game of poker or a game of chess in the fact that mindset is so important and revealing information is so important that if you find yourself tilted to the point that you can't make those decisions, or whatever else, other mitigating factors, it's best to just stand up from the table and walk away. And so to hear you complain, not complain, but explain that in such a way is pretty fascinating to me, because it shows the kind of mindset you kind of need to grow MMR. And if you're not able to get to that normalized, mindset, then you might as well not play at all sometimes. And it sounds like you didn't get tilted too hard when you played your best and other people didn't. But you also have to recognize each game is its own thing. And that's what, the Dr. Flubb system has taught me, is if I don't have the ability or endurance or whatever to have a fresh mindset at the beginning of each game, ready to not judge people and remain open-minded and, get the job done, then I shouldn't be playing that game. And I've gotten very good at recognizing that now. And it's hugely thanks to your system. And I kind of see that system still being used here. You're just being able to pump out more and more games. And pretty soon you'll be 5K too, right?
Oh, I hope so. I worked from like a month ago, or even like a few weeks ago. I was at like one of my low points of being at like 4.4, and now I'm all the way up to 48.19 in just a couple weeks. So hopefully if this system keeps working out, man, I'll earn another hopefully 200 MMR, and it'll be nothing.
And then Ursinity and Proud will not have a leg to stand on, right?
Right. Then I could rightfully take my place where I was for so long. I was ahead of them for like a good, like, I want to say 6 months. I was ahead of them, and then I just like lost a bunch, and they followed the tried and true methods that they had and got to 5K. And oh man, it is a lonely flub down at the dregs for me in the lower 4K.
Dregs. It looks like you're living like Hollywood style compared to me, man. I'm in the freaking ghettos of Detroit or something, but or just Detroit. But anyway, moving on. I think there's a lot to be said about mindset. I was toying with the idea, or just thinking about, like, what if there was a conversation or mindset MMR? And I know there's a behavior score and stuff like that that's invisible that you can look at, but the more and more I play this game, the more I realize that mindset is so hugely important in terms of building MMR, that if you feel like you're playing with people that you're better than, you're going to lose. If you feel like you're way worse than anyone you're playing with, you're going to lose. If you trust in the system and realize that you are where you need to be, and the only way out from that, the Detroit analogy is to, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, so to speak, and recognize your own flaws. And by recognize those flaws, you can turn them into MMRs. I think that's important, because you can fixate on other people. You can fixate very easily in this game on what other people are doing, because there's so many micro choices, not just micro in terms of how you micro, but in terms of item builds and skill builds and why were you there and why are you in my lane and all this stuff, that if you just put it out of your mind and start to recognize that everybody's human and has flaws, then you can really start to find that common bond, and with anybody, I'm talking anybody, and you can see what it takes to win a game. And once you do that once, you can start to replicate it, right?
Yeah, definitely.
But you need to have the wherewithal to recognize that you're part of the problem if you're tanking as well. And not to say you didn't play your best or something, but maybe you could have won that game and you tilted your team because you're just like, oh, you said dumb stuff on mic or something. You know what I mean? And when you can recognize it, that's when the game starts to turn, and that your words do indeed have an impact, even if no one's saying anything back. I think that's what I would add here to the whole Flubb system, and something I've been kind of working on very hard myself. I have said dumb things on the mic. I'm sure everybody does at some point. But I do too. The great thing about Dota is it's a great teacher, man. And it's a teacher in terms of your mechanics, your reaction, but it's also a teacher in how you can successfully solve a problem in a room with a bunch of people you've never met before, that might be from different places around the world, or, maybe people you just plain don't like.
Yeah, it's definitely it's definitely, anything can be a good teacher if you just like open up yourself to the idea of trying to empathize, with the situation, and like trying to understand um, what you can accomplish and what you can't accomplish, and realizing the futile things of like what saying something against someone, whether that's being being a jerk about like trying to nag on someone, and that like makes you feel better in the instance. It's like, did you need to say that on mic though? Like even I would say don't even say it at all, because then you're just going to develop the habit of saying it. But if you have the ability to like just not say that to the person, not make them feel bad, then they are going to not focus on that. They're not going to focus on the bad thing that they did, and they're going to try to think, okay, how can I get around this the next time? Or I guess we would hope that they would do that.
But not everyone does. And that's where you see tanks in MMR, and that's where you see people get toxic. And I mean, a lot of people say the trench doesn't exist, but the truth is it does exist, but it's self-created, right? And not to get all like metaphysical and weird and out there, but when you put yourself in that trench and think you're there, you might as well be, is what I would argue. You might as well be there because you have convinced yourself that you are in a hole that you cannot dig out of, that no one's dug themselves out of before. And there's so much evidence to the contrary, but, we are what we think, especially in a game like Dota. We are what we think and we are what we do, And so if you're consistently salty about who you're playing with and consistently thinking you don't belong there, it's going to come out in your play. It's going to come out in your game. It's going to come out in your personality towards these people that you've been put into the room to solve the problem of the game with.
Oh yeah, self-fulfilling prophecy. I know, like you were just saying you didn't want to get too meta about this, but like that's my love, man. Is like meta things. So, the self-fulfilling prophecy is basically saying that if you believe it, then it's going to happen. Your subconscious kind of takes over and does the wrong things because you secretly kind of want to lose. When you're saying, oh, I'm going to lose, then you lose. Because
everybody's so bad down at this level that there's no way anyone could ever win a game at this level. And then you go on a huge losing spree. And it's like, see, I told you. It's not my fault. It's just this whole system. It's the trench. It's like, but if you hadn't had that attitude, and maybe you weren't so short with people, and you instead tried to foster goodwill and communication in your team, who knows what could have happened?
Yep.
Who knows? You could have come back you could have got a crazy fight. You could have taken a good roche timing. You could have done all of these little things that build up to a victory. But instead of solving the problem, you were sitting back and complaining. And I guess I didn't think this was going to be so widely relatable to a lot of things in life. But that's genuinely how I feel about many things. It's like you have people that either try to foster that communication, a la, the type of confidence where it's like, yeah, I can do this, but so can you. You know what I mean? And then you have the type of confidence that the guy that goes on a 20-1, streak and is yelling at the other team and his teammates about how he's the greatest, the hottest shit ever. You know what I mean? And those two types of confidence, I would argue that the one type of confidence, which is didactic, it teaches you and helps people to become better, is the type that will get you higher MMR. And the other type is one that inevitably will make you sink.
Yeah, it will. And it's very it's a very lonely type of situation when you think that you're doing all that, because no matter how good you are or how good you think you are, there's always someone better, and there's always someone who can see it in a different point of view.
And then there's me. Then there's me at the bottom of the totem pole.
No, see, like I think that it doesn't matter what MMR you're at, even if you are like 2,000 MMR lower than me, or even 1,000 MMR lower than me, like you are. It's not it's not like a thing that people can say, you're this much lower than me, you have to listen to me. It's like, okay, you see the game at a different standpoint, and there's a lot of the things that maybe you haven't caught on yet, but there's also some things that you've experienced yourself that I may have not experienced. As like being an older player, I may not have experienced some of the things that you like oh yeah, I played during this time, and this, and this is like the sequence of events, and I might have just like during that period, I may have like blown over it, because like I was like, oh, there's nothing new about this type of situation. They've done this before, when in fact there's like a new algorithm on why they like get boots earlier on Sand King, or why they have, why they have gone away from Soul Ring, or why they go away from this item, and it's like it's good to see these different viewpoints, because you're going to have these relationships that foster a new kind of way to look at the game and the way to perceive why you are being successful, or um, why you're able to get to a certain point, and they can in turn kind of help each other out in that path and get better.
And this is definitely feeding into our other point, and that's that you find the most uncommon knowledge everywhere. I mean, and if you just open up to the fact that other players, even if they really annoy you, or even if you don't really like them, you can still learn something. And they don't necessarily have to learn anything from you or have that attitude, but this goes back to the dichotomy I drew earlier, that some people, when they improve at things, they want to take others with them. And then some people, when they improve at things, they want to say, hop up on, a high warding spot and just yell to the whole map how they're the toughest shit who ever walked. And it's like, dude, you're 2.5k, man. It's like, you had a good game, but do you really need to like run everyone through the mud for it? And I think the reason that mindset fails is because you stop growing. It's quite simple. You get to the point where maybe you're very good at that level, but you think everything you do is so good that maybe by the time the meta switches up and things aren't what you had originally, learned, you are all of a sudden way worse at the game. And if you can't accept that blow to your ego, you'll sink. And I speak from experience, man. I've been, nearly, I've 3,500 or so was my peak at one point. And I've gone very, very far down from that. And it was largely due to my ego. It was because I was under the impression that I had done it. I had finally made it, And there's no such thing as Dota. Even if you hit 5K, there's still that next, apex you can achieve. And there's still, possibly, if your mindset goes sour, it's something that needs to be upkept, just like learning builds and learning, how to communicate. If your mindset goes sour, everything else comes with it. So it's a fight, man. It's a fight to keep that mindset correct. It's a fight to keep your ego in check. It's a fight, just to stay alive in the Dotaverse.
Yeah, it's true. Now, I have a question for you, Scythe. I have a question for you. Jeez, I almost called you Cyphus.
Yeah,
I almost called you Roland. Your name on for our listeners, his name on our channel right now is Cyphus, because we just recorded a different show. And
he's a good man. He's a good man. He's a good man to be compared to. I don't mind. Roland, though, that's where you're crossing the line. Them's fighting words.
I meant to say Wazoo. I have a question for you, Wazoo.
What is it?
And that is, have you noticed that a certain play style works better at a certain MMR? Because I kind of noticed that in the past few weeks. See, for me, I feel like support is much, much easier for me once I got over the 4.6k hump. And I think I have it. It's because the people at that level, they start switching over to people don't play support anymore. Like mid 4K and below 4K, you'll meet people who play support. It's not an uncommon thing. And when you get into the 3K range again, people don't play support down there. But
I think there's a couple mitigating factors that I don't want to gloss over. I talked about behavior score. I'm not going to talk about it too much, but look into it. It's been more or less proven that you are put in different tiers based upon the reports you receive or your behavior score. So look at it this way. There's a huge mass majority of people in that 2 to 3K range. And so you're more easily able to be matched with people who have the same behavior score. But as the kind of the curve goes up, you're going to have less and less people getting to those top percentiles. And so you're not going to be matched so far by behavior score. And so I think that's one interesting mitigating factor, because I do notice when I have low reports or I have tons of commends and my behavior score is high, it seems like I'm put into a better pool where people actually do listen and talk. But when I'm more and more toxic, it's like I go into a more toxic pool in ways. And I don't know. I could be completely way off on this, but at the same time, and it could be a negativity bias or something. Whereas like I look at my own attitude and like think the world is the same way. Like when I get into that bad attitude, I think other players are that way, and maybe I judge it that way. But behavior score is the thing, guys. You can look into it and look it up through the console in Dota. I would posit that is so they can put people in a tier system at these ranges where there's a mass majority of players. And as for you, it's like it stops mattering because, as I said, you go up to those top percentiles, you possibly could not even find a game with people of similar behavior scores at points because the range might be so wide and there's so few players that maybe people are toxic up there. They're toxic everywhere at times, and they're really nice everywhere at times. And so that would be one mitigating factor that I think would kind of go into your theory, that those players, maybe if they can't get past that as a support, that hump, they just decide, screw it, I'm going to play this. I can't do this anymore. And then that's where players like you, who have actually not given up on it, come into play.
Yeah, maybe that is a good point. And I think that behavior is something that I probably don't get to see as much as you. Maybe there's certain times where I do feel like it's funny when I did drop down to like 4.4 at my lowest point this year. I feel like I did play with nicer people, and I think that does have some volumes to say with what you're talking about with the whole behavior score. It was more of,
I just don't think it's an arbitrary number that they like. Why would you program that in if it was just an arbitrary number that had no effect whatsoever?
Yeah.
And then they have this tier system of reports, if you think about it, where it's like less than 3 reports is one tier. And then the next would be like, I don't know, 4 through whatever. And then the next after that would be the last until you go to low prio. You know what I mean? And so like you have that, the logic built in. Don't take your Uncle Wazoo's word on it, man, because I don't know really, but it's just something I've kind of observed from having been in the Dota penal system a lot, I guess, is that you those tiers do exist, and maybe it's just my attitude changing and whatever, but I think the game teaches you in more than one way how to behave, and that could very well be one of them. Then you have a player like you who, have you ever had low prio, man?
No, I've actually had abandons. I think I've had total of like 12 abandons overall, and those have all been because I've been playing during like a thunderstorm or something and my power went out.
Oh, no, I was when I started playing, I would just leave all the time. This is before even ranked. I would just be like, whatever, bye, and just leave. Like I didn't care at all because I didn't look at it as other video games. I was still stuck in the era, I guess, of CSGO drop-in, or not CSGO, but CS 1.6 and Source, where you just kind of, when you're done playing, you just leave. And it wasn't a big deal. But Dota, it is a very big deal to have a leaver on your team. And so, like, through that, I think you have like a Pavlov's bell situation where when you get that low prio, you then associate that. I guess you could also call it a positive reinforcement or negative reinforcement, depending on how you look at it. But it's negative in the way that you do these bad actions and then they give you a punishment. And so go ahead.
See with my experience, my older brother taught me the game, the original Dota, and he told me about the whole system of how, like, I mean, there was all these systems in place where people would sign up for leagues and things like that to keep you on ban lists, and you never really wanted to be on a ban list. And if my brother was ever on a ban list, because I would use his account because I'd play on his computer, that would be no bueno
because it was a reputation thing, right?
Yep, and he's not gonna have his little brother taking his reputation down in the dumps. So I never left a game because of that.
I know a lot about little brothers. Well. I know a lot about little brothers taking reputations down to the dumps. I don't want to name any names, but I've been called him in this episode. You guys can go look back and see. Yeah, that's interesting, and I think very well Valve could have developed something like that, but we've kind of gone tangentialized a little bit. Can kind of pull her back onto the train tracks here, and I've been doing one game a day, and I've talked about this before. I'm working a lot, got a lot going on in my life, so it's like it's hard for me to sit down and play multiple games. I'd rather go play something quick or, like educate myself about the game. I've been doing a lot of research, man. And that'll bring me to my point here. And that's that I think there's 3 things that you need to consistently climb MMR. And that would be knowledge. You need to read up on the current meta and the builds and know what's good. And I've had people on this very show, celebrity and otherwise, who've told me at your level of play, meta doesn't matter. And it's like, I highly disagree with that. And I've said that before. I highly disagree because even if we don't do those things that are good as well as pros, people still do them. It trickles down, right? If you see Sumail playing Mirana at the International, you're going to, wow, I'm going to go play Mirana. You won't do it as well, sure. But that's the meta trickling down, trickle down economics or something. But so knowledge would be my first thing. You got to educate yourself about all this stuff and know what's good and what's valuable. The second would be communication. Your communication needs to be good. And you need to be able to, if you can't keep a baseline with people under those stressful situations where you still treat them with respect and dignity, you need to cut yourself off. Use the chat wheel. Arsenity and myself are a huge proponent of the chat wheel for good reason. And then you have players that don't even use it and climb. Like, right, Flubb? You don't use it that much, do you?
No, I don't really. I don't know. The thing about meta is like, I don't know. People always talk about meta and they have to follow this, they have to follow that. Like, I think there's reasons behind it, and there's like, yeah, the pros can take a hero and like do like the best thing possible with it, and like just infinitesimally like bigger than what we can do, and like that's why people talk about the metas and why it exists and things. But meta is also based around like how well a player like plays with a certain hero at that time. There's certain heroes that just like come into popularity because like a certain player understands the hero way better than another player, and
the world falls in love with that hero through that. And that's why I would argue that is the meta, is because people will mimic what you act like and what you do and what you play. And so how many times have you seen players with other pro names, Dondo or Dendi or, Burning or something like that? Like that mimicry, I feel like mirrors the meta. It might not be as well played. They might not even understand why they're doing certain things, but they see someone do it and they mimic it. And so, yeah, that would be my point on the meta. And I brought it up and people are like, oh, that's too far out. But no, it's not really, if you think about it. It's a lot like anything else in the game. It's like people will do it, but they won't necessarily understand why.
See, what I would say to those people who told you that is that, do you not need to know your opponent in chess? Because that's the entire game, is knowing what the opponent is supposed to do and then base your idea on it. I feel like the people who follow the meta are at a disadvantage sometimes because, yeah, they're getting like the best level of what's going on, but if you can outsmart them, if you know what their next move is going to be, then you prepare for it and you develop a counter strike. That's the idea of any strategy game that has ever existed. Know your opponent, understand what he's going to do, and counter that attack.
And to quote Ember Spirit, every action is reaction. And that's one of my favorite lines in the game. And, like it's kind of a Bruce Lee ripoff in a weird way, but like it's the whole idea of be water, like if you just go around them kind of thing. But if you look and watch pro games and you can start to notice, okay, so he went this hero against this hero. Why? Oh, it's very strong. Okay, well, I just saw that hero get picked up, so I'm going to pick that hero too. And so that's just stuff like that. Even if you don't understand it on the macro basis of the game, you understand it at least for your lane. And that's a step in the right direction, right? You don't need to get it as the pros get it. But if you can kind of grasp a little bit of why they do it, and you can kind of grasp and go on Dota Buff and look at these builds and say, okay, I see them building this, but why? And you can think out your mental process. In fact, some of the best advice I've ever gotten in Dota, I think, is from watching early Purge videos. And one thing he said that has always stuck with me, and to this day, I still think about it maybe on a daily basis, and that's that when you can conceptualize why you're building, what you're building, and you can think through your item and skill builds for yourself for the scenario you're in without just following a rigorous build, that's playing Dota. That's true Dota, because you're looking at all these different factors and you're looking how to solve that problem. And so, yeah, I'm a big fan of that advice because I've learned that, man. I dropped 1500 MMR. I used to just follow one rigorous build for each hero and just play that on out, you know? And I had a 50-50 win rate. But now, as I'm building, I don't go into the game and go, well, I'm always starting with this, unless it's some heroes, you know? I'll be like, well, who am I laning against? Okay, well, this might be good, you know, let's try it. And then I'll build kind of naturally and organically the items and skill build on the hero. And of course, there are some skill builds where it's just better to value things from just a point of view, but there are other things that like it can actually help you to be like water in that sense.
Yeah, for sure. I think that the point that you made, that Purge like gave you this advice, and like it's funny that you say that. I have never heard him say that personally. I never watched that video or something, but I've always felt that Purge is one of the best people, one of the best things that has happened to Dota. Like he's top 5 greatest people to listen to about Dota, and he always will be. He truly is like an original Dota player of like he knows what the game is and what it's about, and that's why everything that he says and why people come to him about like learning the game and from a standpoint of I'm new at the game, what can I do to improve myself, and he's one of the best people, if not the best person to learn from.
He was kind of doing our shtick. He was kind of doing our shtick before we were even doing it in a way, but now he's just gone super mainstream. But Purge, we know you're listening, buddy. Thanks for listening into the show, man. And no, I'm joking. He doesn't listen, I don't think. But
if he does, though, like
maybe.
Major shout out to him. He is revolutionary in the way that he looks at Dota.
He's a wise man, and I think he embodies very well. And I mean, this is nothing new. I've said this on the show plenty of times, but I feel like he embodies those good things a Dota player can be. And to some people, that may look like he's detached emotionally, but I don't think that at all. You know, he has the good baseline that when he opens his mouth, you know, it's going to be something of worth he's going to say. And I don't know. We've kind of gotten into a lot of different philosophies here tonight, but it should give you, the listener, a little bit of an idea of how some people think about the game. And not everyone needs to think about it that way. I don't argue that, but I look at this game. I'm a student of the game, you know, and I say that a lot. It humbles me and it makes me a better person in ways. It teaches me to, you know, care about people from many different parts of the world, many different attitudes, many different beliefs. So I think once you start to realize everyone's just a human being, and that like if you can start to work to solve the problem together, eventually you'll start to climb MMR. And with those 3 things in mind that I mentioned, knowledge, communication, and attitude, they should all be pretty self-explanatory. Of course, there's things I'm kind of leaving out, and that's like the mechanical basis. There's some, I mean, I'm an old ass, man. I'm not going to be able to like be keeping up with these kids coming up. And there's kids from Peru and land cafes that are probably 14 years old that whoop my ass on a daily basis. And it's just like, damn, it's like, I'm old and slow. I'm an old ass, but it's okay, right? Because the only person I'm competing against when I flip on that game is myself. I want to improve myself. And I think a lot of people get lost in that battle with themselves, right? And they're not really fighting against you when they say rude shit or toxic shit over the mic. They're fighting a battle within themselves. You know, I've ripped Bruce Lee off a lot in this episode, but that's also him. And it's true, man. Like you see people and they're just like mad to exist, and they just want to come and like, my life sucks. And like, okay, that's cool. I'll just mute you, and if that's how it's got to be, I don't want to have to do that. You know what I mean? And I would add as a bullet point onto the whole communication part of my triangle that learning when to mute people when they're no longer being good for the team is also an important trait that goes into communication. Just like you need to know when and what to communicate and how to do it, you also need to know when to cut someone off when they're tilting you.
Yes, most definitely.
But you don't mute people, really, do you?
Yeah, that's kind of my weakness and my strength at the same time. There's definitely people that I've talked to that mute way too early, in my opinion. And there's also people who like me and Cyphus, we generally mute way too late. And it's kind of like a point of pride at this point, which is kind of bad to some degree. I don't want.
I don't know if it is though. Like I would argue that you've just been able to kind of level up your communication skills to a point where you can go around what they're saying and get to their heart and just be like, look, man, let's win the game. You know what I mean? And that's another skill, right? If you can do that, you can do it. The problem is when you're a hothead like me and like people start spouting off their shit at me, like I fire back. You know what I mean? I've always been that way since I was a young boy. You know what? I've never been able to change that. And in fact, I don't really try, to be honest, because it's part of my personality. But for me, it's like, I don't mute that guy because like, oh, what you said to me is offensive. I mute that guy because it's like, I'm more capable of leading and, you know, getting that person to play along with the team by using chat wheel after muting him and just ignoring what he's saying and just being like, go, 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 you know, just basic commands like fight now and back and game is hard and stuff like that. Like if we need to reduce our communication to a boiled down level of simplicity like that because you can't communicate with me like a human being, I'll do that. And I never tell people when I mute them. I just mute them. And then I start, using the chat wheel. And for me, that's more effective. For you, Dota psychologist and Dr. Flubb published many books on the MMR climbing system. It's a little different. It's just a different skill, right?
Yeah, and I see what you're saying, and yes, it is true. Sometimes there are people that like I generally probably should have muted in the past, and that's the thing is like I know that I'm probably not gonna see this person again, and like people have like said, well, this is higher MMR, you're gonna see the person again, and I'm like, are you really? Like, yeah, the numbers start dwindling down, but that person's probably on a losing streak, or that person is you may see them again, but it's probably not going to be for like at least 20 games, and that's like 20 hours from now. You're probably not going to do that in one day. It's probably going to be a few days in the future.
And will you even remember that altercation by the time you see that person after even 10 games?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, and that's like worst case scenario, right? Like the idea is you're probably not even going to see them for like 10,000 games. I mean, and that's the thing. It goes across like all different games. Like, I've dealt with people that I just like I would not want to hang out with that person in real life. There's someone I was playing Overwatch the other day, and I didn't mute them. They were saying like racist and sexist and mean things, and like I was like, dude, I don't really want to hear that. And then he kept saying stuff, but I just chose to ignore him, and it wasn't upsetting anyone on the mics at that moment, so they could have muted him in that situation. And I kind of like repeated what he said in like a better way to like get people to do stuff, and we ended up winning the game because he was able to communicate that there was a healer over there. I mean, he said like homophobic stuff by saying that there's this homophobic slur here over there, and he meant there's a healer over there, and I would just say that the healer over in barracks or healer over in this situation. And if you can like pull yourself from the moment, try to get at what they should be saying and convert the language in your mind, it just helps everyone out, and it can really lead people to victory, because even though they're giving out really dumb hurtful information, they're still giving out some type of information.
That's really profound. I would like to get to the point on the internet where people like that are just kind of ignored. You know what I mean? And not ignore the language, not ignore the impact of that, but realize as a societal contract, you got to cut them off. You're like, okay, that's it. You're done. And it's just two different philosophies, I guess. Yours is definitely one where you're like taking a lead role in ensuring the communication lines stay open. Whereas like, I don't know, like I've gotten so good, like, dude, I'd go to low prio and be calm banned, and it's just like awesome. And like, I just have to use the chat wheel, man. And that was it, and like that taught me, and this is what I'm saying about Dota being a great teacher, that taught me that there are other ways to communicate in this game than with words. And if someone is not, abiding by that contract, the social contract that we're going to treat each other good because that's the best way to win the game. I don't have to like you. I don't like you, but I want to win the game. So, that's my way of dealing with it. Yours, I don't know, give me a lot to think about. But I feel like we've covered pretty effectively the whole MMR climbing discussion. I want to play some Dota, boys. So and girls, whoever's listening, schmancy. I definitely want to talk about our items of the week. The poll did not go up again, guys. Someone dropped the ball in the .p administration. Someone's getting the axe. Someone's out. No, I'm joking. But we will start to do that. But we're just going to kind of pick one randomly from the list. And we have decided to do Necronomicon today. And it's a cool item. I build it a lot, like on Surprise, Surprise Lycan. He's like probably the only hero I build it on. And it's very interesting on its all 3 levels. So, Flubb, do you want to take us through a quick overview of the Necronomicon?
Okay, guys, the Necronomicon is a levelable item.
A level
Has
upable?
multiple different-
Level upable.
It's kind of a tongue twister,
Yeah.
right? But no, the item gives you 2 minions. One is kind of a beefier, tanky kind of strength minion. The other one does a ranged like bow attack. And the warrior has a lot of health, where the other one has a mana break. The bow guy, he like drains a little bit of mana when he shoots.
And then, of course, he has an ability in itself, mana burn, that you can use to drain a little bit more, right?
Right,
Is that what
right.
it is?
Yeah, he does have the mana drain ability.
Interesting.
And
let me just read this real fast, and then I'll let you continue. Necronomicon, considered the ultimate in necromancy and demonology. A powerful malefic force is locked within its pages. Ooh, spooky! It's like Goosebumps. Cost is $26.50, and that's just for the first one, right?
Yes,
$26.50. All right, yeah, and that takes the Staff of Wizardry, the Belt of Strength, and a recipe worth $1,200, and is from there upgraded by just repurchasing the $1,200 recipe. So continue on, Flubb.
Right. Yeah, and it's a really important item that, I mean, so it has all these like really cool things about it. It has this big tanky warrior, has this mana draining archer that has an ability that it can activate. It also something a lot of people don't realize is that archer actually gives an aura of speed. So it actually kind of is a speed boosting item when you have it on. And a lot of people kind of put that on the wayside.
I actually never knew that.
Yeah, right. It's something that a lot of people don't realize, because like it's not, it's not like what it's built for, right? You're building it for the pushing power, but it does give you a slight bonus on that speed. Also, the warrior dying gives a big blast. If they do get the last hit on them, they do get quite a bit of gold from killing the Necronomicons. But if you kill the warrior, it does a big blast that's like almost as good as the Dagon at some levels. It does like 550, 675, and then 800. So it can be a big blast when it gets all the way up there. Kind of convincing them not to attack the creeps.
I might also add, while we're on the topic of like the archer, is he also gives True Sight at level 3, right?
Oh, the archer doesn't. The warrior does.
It's the warrior, huh? I also didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
It's the warrior that gives the tankier unit. Yeah, I thought they balanced it by making the weaker unit have that ability, but that makes sense. So I always pick it up on Lycan when I see. I mean, I'll always pick it up regardless, but I'll typically pick Lycan these days when I see Invis heroes at my level, because then I know I'm going to have that all the time, and I'm going to get some easy kills in the mid to late game. You know what I mean? And that True Sight, it's incredible.
It is, and it's funny. A lot of people like to talk about it's bad to have an item, an itemless slot item, that you can't just like have a gem that does nothing in your slot. You can have Necronomicon. Yes, it's not as good as a gem where it's like available all the time, but Necro does have an ability that it can use every once in a while where it gives you sight. You can kill that sight, but it does give you true sight on that creature that can like run around with you. So, and it gives you stats, gives you a lot of intelligence, gives you a lot of strength.
Yeah. What heroes do you build it on, man? Like you as a player.
See, the thing is I do build it on quite a few heroes. The ones that are classic are the ones like Beastmaster, Lycan, the heroes that are naturally like needing the extra tankiness, the
I feel
extra
like
strength,
I
the
feel like I
extra
was building it and I
bonus.
didn't necessarily know why because of that movement speed. That's such an added bonus to those other units.
Well, it's also the just having more creeps and taking advantage of using creeps, having it the hero have like AoE abilities that help it out,
Yeah.
like how like um like Beastmaster's attack speed.
And do
You
those
know,
go
there's
invisible with Broodmother if they're in the web, or does that only work with Spiderlings?
they do not. Those
Yeah, okay.
just work with
That would be a
Spiderlings.
bit
That
too strong, right?
I don't know, man. You know, you may have stumbled on an idea for Ice Frog to make her viable again because she's pretty poopy right now.
Yeah,
So
and I don't know. It would just be interesting to have. You're living with spiders, you know. It's like people that go live with the apes in the Congo and stuff. It's like, you must act the way of the spider, my friend. You know, I don't know, but with that being
yeah.
said, I think that's a pretty good overview of the item. Do you have anything else to add before we close out the show?
Um, I don't think so. I think the item is available. Like if you ever see something where they have multiple Invis heroes, like 2 to 3 or even like 4 Invis heroes, you should consider buying it even on people that generally wouldn't necessarily want to go it, just because it's nice to have that ability to have an undroppable item that will always help you throughout the rest of the game take on half their team.
The
So
value is very much there for something like that because unlike a gem or something, you don't drop it. You know, it'll just continue every single time to be something that gives you that value. So thanks for your insights, Flubb. That was interesting. Learned something new. You learn something new every day on a show with Flubb. It turns out. Sometimes you learn that your name's Cyphus or Roland, but you know that's the truth of the matter. Um, but guys, I'm going to go ahead and close out the show now. You can find us, our organization, at .p_show, defenseofthepatients.com. Look for us on Twitch at .ptv and on YouTube at .ptv1. Lots of good content coming out at you. Make it to the practices. Make it to the in-houses on Wednesday, guys. They're at 9 p.m. Eastern, hosted by Grouty, and you can engage with Grouty if you really want to, I guess, at Grouty Dota. But Flubb, where can people find you, my friend?
so people can find me at Flubb Dota on Twitter. There's also we will be hosting like kind of practices. We'll host online streamed practices on Sundays, generally from like 2 to 5, and then we'll go to like 7 to 10. So try to like look around your computers if you're ever interested on looking at what Hakuna Marana does during practices, how we talk to each other, things like that. People have kind of been talking to us about our communication and how much they enjoy it. So come down and watch us there. Just a couple shout outs real quick. One is that by the time this airs, my article should be up for Support Sniper. So if you guys are interested, give it a read, see what you guys think, and try it out with some friends. Make sure they understand the strategy, and it'll kind of go into detail about that.
And if you have any
in
complaints about that being bad, you can definitely send all complaints to at Grouty Dota. That's what I'm talking about.
Yep, exactly. Oh, and then one more thing. There's a special fan. His name is Oceans, and I wanted to give a special shout out to him because he sent me a Ricky set, and I thought that was a really cool thing for a fan to do, and I really appreciate it.
Hey, yeah, thanks. Oceans, you said?
Oceans. Yep.
Yeah, thanks for listening, man. Support like you is what keeps us going. And all you guys out there who listen, thank you so much for tuning in, guys. We love doing this. Love doing this for you. And so remember, guys, you go out there, you stay hard, and you stay classy.